Joining us now, running for Attorney General, he's like the wind-up does. This guy's everywhere. He never sleeps. Some people say Trump only gets 5 hours a day. Rob Bell never sleeps. The guy's everywhere. It's like the Energizer Bunny all over the state. From the 58th District in Greene County, Rob Bell, House of Delegates member. Good to have you with us, Rob.
Good morning, John. Glad to be back. Thank you.
Okay, let's get the elephant out of the room. So you got these other guys running around, Adams and Chuck Smith, and they're all nice guys, right? We're all having fun. But they're telling me and my audience, they're saying, look, vote for me. Adams, I was at some Chesapeake meeting, and he shows up there. Nice guy, by the way, lots of credentials. And people say to him, well, why are you running against Rob Bell? And he says, Rob Bell can't win. He can't beat Mark Herring. That's his mantra. What say you?
Well, I mean, I'm not running against John. I'm running against Herring. But if you're looking for somebody who has proven that he can win in a place that Democrats are sometimes successful, that's something I've done. And so I've been elected in the General Assembly. My district is around Charlottesville. Tim Kaine carried it. Mark Warner carried it, and I was able to win. So I think that I've got a proven record of being able to win elections.
Well, I think that's your answer, right? Proven record of winning elections, but you're everywhere. Delegate Bell, sum up the 2016 General Assembly from your standpoint of what you thought going in, what you think coming out.
Sure. And it's a cliche, but I mean, the best of times, worst of times. We had some successes, and then we had a bunch of things that we were hopeful would be more successful, and they were either defeated or the governor is lining them up for a veto. I mean, the big wins were, the first would be the gun reciprocity deal that was worked out. I mean, in the beginning of session, Mark Herring took the reciprocity away for 25 states, and that would have made it much harder for Virginians to carry with their permit around the country. Of all people, Terry McAuliffe said, oh my gosh, that goes too far. Let's work on a way to make this work. And so one of the few things he was able or willing to work with us on was restoring reciprocity, not just to the states where we started, but actually goes further. We have more concealed carry reciprocity nationwide than we had when Herring walked out and made his big announcement. So that's obviously a good thing. The state budget does not include the Obamacare Medicaid expansion, and McAuliffe had baked that in. He kind of wove it into the budget, so it wasn't as simple as simply saying no. You also had to go through the budget line by line and take it all out. That's a success. And we finally settled the Supreme Court issue. I heard the trailer right before I came in on the news that we found a guy, and it took us a long time to get there, and who knew it would be a good one when we got done, but we ended up with a really terrific constitutional conservative, limited judicial activism judge, and he's wonderful. And if you'd asked me at the beginning of it, if you'd asked me halfway through, would we get a good one, I'd say, oh my gosh, I doubt we'll get any of them. And in fact, we ended up with a really good one. So those are kind of the hits. Do you want the bad ones?
Some of the defeats. What are they?
Well, I think that the one that is in the middle of being defeated, unfortunately, is school choice. And so we had 4 or 5 bills that addressed various aspects of it. I had the Tebow Bill, which would let homeschoolers participate at the local high school. That would make it much easier to homeschool teenagers. The governor has already vetoed that one, and we did not have the votes to override. The charter school constitutional amendment that I had failed by 2 votes, so that did not. It's not that the governor vetoed it, but we just didn't have the votes to get that out, so that didn't pass. And then some of the other measures that are on the governor's desk, I'm hopeful but not optimistic, if that makes sense, that he's going to sign them. So I think we're going to end up with a couple more vetoes before we're done. And if the Democrats hold firm, if they vote in a block, we don't have the votes to override the vetoes. So that's sort of the big too bad. And then we had a new idea about reforming the delivery of health care. We have something called COPN laws, which is Certificate of Public Need. It allows the government to decide when and how someone can expand a medical facility. So if you wanted to open an MRI clinic, you can't just do it. You have to get permission. Right. This is decades-old law. It doesn't make any sense in the modern era, and we had a bill in the House that would have abolished it, and it didn't pass the Senate. So that's one that did not pass.
So COPN is going to come back. They're going to take that up again in the 2017 General Assembly.
I would think so.
Your personal biggest success, 2016 General Assembly, Rob, what is it?
Oh, gosh. A lot of what we do is unheralded, meaning it's passes unanimously, but it takes a whole year to get there. We had looked at our stalking laws in Virginia, and this came from last year, and the issue would be how does the defendant, the guy, know that what he's doing is scaring the victim? And it's a problem we've had year after year. Year after year, we look at it, and if 2 calls is not stalking, but 300 calls is stalking, where's the line?
Right.
And what we did was we looked at all 50 states. We sent it to the Crime Commission. The Crime Commission looked at it, and 2 states, North Dakota and Maryland, had an idea, and it's going to be obvious once I say it, but for the life of us, we hadn't thought of it before then, was if she tells him, if she puts him on notice and says, "Stop it, you're scaring me," just like you do with trespassing. I can walk across your yard, but if you ever say, "Stop it, that's my yard, stay off," it's trespassing. And this would be the same. And so this is, we worked with domestic violence advocates on this, and we worked with the law enforcement and everybody to try to find a way to make this work. And it turns out that these other states had already figured it out. So that's something that took a whole year to work around to. I'm pretty happy with that. We also changed the rules for protective orders. These all come through the criminal laws subcommittee that I work on. Those are the things I think will have the longest, biggest long-term impact.
Now, what about the so-called Tebow Bill,
Sure.
Which allows homeschool children to participate in their school district's athletic programs in high school? That, to me, is one of those common sense things. You're already paying the taxes. It costs you nothing because I could send that child to the public school, and then they could play football or basketball or baseball or lacrosse or golf or track, do whatever they wanted.
Or debate or band.
Or debate or do anything. Now, the fact that the student isn't there and you're homeschooling him is saving.
No, actually, it doesn't just not cost you money, it saves you money.
It saves you money.
There are going to be kids, and my brother and sister were homeschooled who then went to high school to swim. But there are kids that would be kept home, saving thousands of dollars, and all they want to do is participate in sports. And in the more populated areas, suburban areas or urban areas, there are often other opportunities. So there might be a private swim club or a soccer league. But in the rural areas of the state, as we say, the only game in town is at the high school. And I've got a county I represent that has no educational opportunities outside of homeschooling except for the high school. And those kids, the only choice if they want to participate in some kind of athletics is to go to the high school. That might be a great choice for many kids, but there are certainly kids that should be homeschooled. And this is just trying to open it up. 28 states have it. We're not trying to sneak around. It would be they got to be the right age. They got to live in the school district. They can't be receiving any money. All of those rules would be followed. But if they would otherwise be followed, if they could walk in tomorrow, enroll, and then join the team, we think they should be allowed to try out for the team if they're homeschooled.
So that seems to me to be the most common sense approach I can think of. You have a child, you decide for your own reasons they're better off being homeschooled. You're saving your school district money. So there's no money is changing hands here because we always get the argument, well, we can't take the money out of the schools. We can't take it out of the school system. We can't take it out of that school. I mean, I get these arguments from my Democratic friends all the time. This is one that is illogical to me. You're saving the school money by homeschooling your child.
It's even further than that because the bill that was proposed to try to get the last few votes, we set it up so it would be local option, meaning each county could make up its own mind. Now, unless you have a homeschooled kid, you probably don't know this, but more than half of the counties in Virginia already let homeschoolers take classes. So you want to take chemistry, and the online chemistry class isn't very good. You can already go into, like Albemarle County lets homeschoolers take up to 2 classes a year. You can be parts of clubs. You can be the drama club. You can be on the chess team, whatever. What you can't do is participate in any activity that competes against another school. And we have 8 counties, and I'm sure there'd be more if it was possible, but 8 counties who've said, we would like to let homeschoolers participate. We just can't because the rules won't let us. Please let us. We won't tell you what you got to do in your county, but please stop telling us what we have to do in our county. And that's what the bill was, and it still was not able to get past the governor's veto.
What is the argument in opposition to that, Rob?
Well, there's the stated argument, which doesn't make as much sense, and then what I think is what's really going on. The stated argument would be that their rules are different, which is true. I mean, homeschoolers take classes differently. They take tests differently. But that can't be the real reason because we already have wide variance among the school programs. And so some have different grades, some have high grades, some have low grades. The schools and the districts are already competing on an unequal basis. You could be a dual-enrolled student who never steps foot within the class, the school building, that kid is allowed to try out for the football team. So it's not even about school spirit or that he's in the cafeteria or that he knows all the other kids at the school. What I think is really going on is, from a homeschooling perspective, you say, this is forcing kids to enroll at the public high school, and that's not a good thing. You should let the parents decide. If you don't like homeschooling, you say, this is forcing kids to enroll at the public high school, and that's great. I'd have to think that's part of this, that they think the kids are better served at the public high school, and so if this forces the kids to enroll, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's the only thing that makes all these facts add up and make sense.
Right. So what you're saying is there's the straw man, and then there's the real argument. Because when I get Democrats and some Republicans on my show that are not in favor of this, they give me that argument you just gave me, that you have school spirit and this and that, and it should be contiguous, and you open it up to recruiting, and because and I'm like, well, it's not recruiting because you have to live in the district that your school says. So I don't really get that argument either. But so there's a lot of these strawmen out there. But what you're saying, the real reason is they don't like homeschooling, period. If they have a hammer or leverage to get the child to enroll in the public high school, they think at the end of the day, the child is better off than if they're home school. It's almost towards a bias towards homeschoolers.
You can say it in the positive way, which is I think they believe that the kid is better served in the public schools. And what the conservatives have said is that we should let the parents make as many of those choices as we possibly can, rather than have some universal response. And again, if you look at sort of the school choice bills this session, we had homeschooling, we had a charter school bill or resolution, we had the educational savings accounts. All of these have a theme, which would be, at the end of the day, the parents know their kid best, they care the most. Let's empower them as best we can to make some choices for kids. Because if you're rich, you already have lots of choices.
Right.
You don't like your local public school, just go to the best private school you can find.
Right.
But there's a large percentage of Virginians who only option is what's provided by the public school system. Why shouldn't they have some options too? And it's a disappointment this session that between different things getting bottled up in the Senate or in committee or wherever they might be, or more specifically when they get to the governor's desk and he vetoes them, we will have another year next year that starts in August with the kids going off to the schools and not having any choices of where they can go. It's
sad, and it really makes no sense, and it also speaks to really the strength of the educational, let's call them, as we have right to work in Virginia, so we can't call them the teachers union or whatever, but the lobby is very powerful. I mean, there was a bill circulated early in the session by Dave LaRocque, and I thought this was the biggest no-brainer in history. And I've said this on my show many times. And his legislation basically said that if the parent could provide the transportation, that a student could move to any school or attend any school within that school district of their choice. So if you're in an area and the particular middle school or the high school simply is not going to fit the needs of your child, for whatever reason, who cares? Doesn't fit their needs. And maybe there's special needs, maybe they're not, but it doesn't fit their needs. What his bill said is, if you want to go to the other middle school across town, same district, and you can get them there, no problem. And that couldn't get out. And the argument against that was, well, if it's a bad school, it's on probation, we can't take kids out of it. So it's almost like they're in prison. I mean, how does this make any sense?
Well, it's worse than that. It's immoral. I mean, we are consigning. Right now, we can identify the schools that are really struggling, and more importantly, can identify the ones that have been struggling for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And many times, it's the students that have the greatest challenges already are then being sent to the schools that are really struggling. And if you're a parent in that district and you say, I will do anything to help my kid be successful, we make it harder, not easier to do that. And a lot of other states have found ways to give parents some options, and we just can't seem to get it through the General Assembly and signed by the governor in Virginia. It's too bad.
Absolutely ridiculous. And, it's a shame because all of this should be about parents and students. Instead, it's about the professional teachers and educational lobby in Virginia and their needs and not the children's needs. It's the whole thing, Rob, is upside down. I'm out of time. I want to thank House of Delegates member Rob Bell for that great update. He's also a candidate for Attorney General. And that will be decided in a 2017 Republican nominating convention, most likely in May, most likely in Richmond. The winner of that will then go and take on the presumptive Democratic nominee for a second term, Mark Herring. There'll also be a candidate for governor and lieutenant governor, of which the Republicans have a virtual cornucopia of candidates. Rob Bell, thanks for being with us, sir.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.